What's going on, everybody? It is 10:56 a.m. and I got this offer here from UberEats to go to Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. I feel like it's Groundhog Day. It's like a very similar offer to the one I got yesterday. $8 in change for 4 point something miles. Let's get on over there. So yesterday's video I left off with talking about how I became financially successful, where I was able to reach a point where I don't really have to work if I don't want to. I guess that's considered retired. I don't really like to use the phrase that I'm retired, because it just makes it sound like I'm not doing anything, that I'm not actively participating in making any type of money or working in any type of way. So where I left off yesterday was I was trying to go back to explain the long process that I went through to reach the point where I'm at now. So I think yesterday I started just with trying to cover all the different aspects of how it all began. So I was covering like the time when I was a teenager and a friend told me about the stock market. I was talking about my first jobs that I had. One was at an amusement park. How I worked for a clothing manufacturing company in Compton around the time of the LA riots in the early 90s. And just trying to figure out life. Once I graduated high school and I also graduated college, and I officially was, quote unquote, an official adult. And it was a hard beginning because I didn't come from money. I came from a very poor family, and not a very functional family. There was a lot of issues that were occurring that made it difficult to even know what life was supposed to be like. I think my main role models growing up were, things that I watched on television. So like I'd watch The Brady Bunch or I Love Lucy, or just old shows that I would watch to just try to figure out, what's life about? What am I supposed to do with myself as I get older? Because there was really not much told about what you're supposed to do when you grow up. It was all sort of just left to random chance and circumstance. So that definitely was not good. Let me see. Oh, is there a parking spot right here? Holy cow. All right, we are here. Let's go in and get it. I'll continue my story in a second. Whew, made it. Alright, complete the pickup. We're going to be traveling 10 minutes, 2.5 miles. I'm going to a house. It's going to be a meet at the door. Man, it was really busy in there. They hadn't started the order yet, so things were stacking up. Alright, let me back out. You're going to get a free parking spot. You should be real excited. Alright, rolling forward. So yeah, I was real busy in there, and they hadn't started my order yet, and they just basically told me, are you here for a pickup? And I said, yeah, I'm here for so-and-so, and then before I could even finish a sentence out of my mouth, they said, it's not ready, we haven't started it. So I was like, okay, and that was that. And then they were just, they were doing their usual spiel, just chatting with people, and I was trying to just do my best to stay out of the way so I wasn't going to crash into anybody. And then once once all the crowd left the coffee bean and tea leaf, there was just like two of us left in the place, and then they put my order together, so then I was good to go. So yeah, so what was I telling you guys? I was telling you guys kind of the summary of how it all started and how I grew up poor as a kid, and I didn't have any direction that was given to me, and so I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, and I'm probably backtracking too far. So I remember just thinking as a kid that I wanted to do art because I like to draw, I liked comic books, and I was very creative, and I was introverted. So I felt like, wow, that really sounds like the right thing for me to do, because in my imagination as a grown up, because I try to picture myself, what I would be doing. I pictured myself at a desk working on something to myself, since I wasn't a very sociable person as a kid. So I thought, well, that sounds like something I could do. I'd be working on a project. So I'd be a project-based adult, is how I sort of pictured it in my mind. But who knew what the future was going to be like? And as far as investing and thinking about retirement, I was just too young to think about that. I think the first times I thought about retirement, um, the notion of retirement was probably in probably my senior year in high school, when I took some class where we were talking about financial investment. And the teacher herself, she was trying to explain like the different things you could do with your money when you retire, so that way you can be, have a good retirement. But you could tell in what she was saying, when I look back on it then, that the teacher had no training whatsoever in financial planning. And she was just basically, in my mind, she was basically told just to, teach this class and make it up as you go. So she was saying funny things like, well, you can just put it in a savings account. And she was like looking to see on her little cheat sheet like what was the current amount of money a savings account would earn, and it was like 1% or 1.5% at the time. It was something really low that she saw, and she did the math on the chalkboard, and she's like, well, that's not gonna work. That was her. She's like, she saw how the money wasn't gonna grow at all, and she was even surprised herself. Like, she was like, uh, while she was actively doing it, she was surprised how little that she was gonna be, how little a person would make if they just saved in a regular savings account. So maybe that was kind of a lesson in itself. And uh, and then I also in high school, in another class, the teachers would talk about Social Security, and this was in 1987. And they talked about how Social Security would be completely bankrupt by the time us kids in 1987 would be ready to retire. There would be no money left in the fund. So this was around the time of Ronald Reagan was president, and there was the whole thing in the country where things were going wrong as far as the economy, and that's when the whole Reaganomics thing was coming into play, and there was this whole thing about things were going to start to shift overseas because we would get things for cheaper, and we were going to start to slowly get rid of manufacturing here in the United States. So I was actually around at that period of time, which we're all laughing about right now, because now it's the opposite. Now here in the United States, they want to bring manufacturing back and not get stuff from outside the country. So it's really been turned on its head all these years later. So those are my first experiences in the beginning with dealing with the idea of retirement and saving and investing. Other than my one friend telling me about how he was going to invest in semiconductors through a brokerage firm called Scott Trade, which I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I have no clue. Oh, it looks like we're going to be going to a guard-gated community coming up. I got to get my ID out. ID. Where are you? There it is. So, and then in after high school, and I graduated from high school, and I went to college. They wanted. I took general education, and then all my different art classes, and there really was no discussion whatsoever about finances there, except they had a booth at the in the quad area where they wanted everybody to sign up for credit cards, and that's what got me first hooked on credit cards. All right, we're almost there. Oh man, why do we have to work? Right? It's gotta pay the bills. That's why we do it. We shouldn't have to do that. We should just be paying for food and gas. You're right, 100%. 100%. All right, thank you. Well, she had opinions about the economy and how it's supposed to work. No doubts. All right, let me focus here for a second. I'm not sure if I'm going through another security gate or not. I know I have to meet at the door. It says 0.8 more miles until I get there. I think I can tell you guys a little bit more about. I just want to get turned around here. Let me just make sure I'm not. There's one more gate here that you have to go through when you're in this neighborhood. Yep, I think I'm going there. So there, I gotta stop at another gate. This gate isn't as bad because all I do is I think I just press a button and the guard buzzes me in. What the hell? Okay. Alright, that was easy. I just buzz you in. So once I got to college, no mention whatsoever about financial investment. The only thing that was financial related was they signed everybody up for credit cards. They had a booth outside, and you just filled out the form, and they sent you a credit card. They gave you a credit limit, and they absolutely just opened the floodgates for people to go into debt. And I was buying all kinds of stupid things with that credit card. The first thing I did with my credit card is I took one of my friends out for a steak and lobster dinner just for laughs, because it was almost like the money was free. I had no concept of what it meant. All it felt like was they were giving me free money to spend. So that was my first learning experience with credit as a 18-year-old. So that was really wild. They did help. The one thing that college did teach me was how to be more organized. They taught me how to schedule out and plan my days. They taught you about a day planner and how to, basically what a Google Calendar would be, and how when you had a lot of things to do, you had to plan things out in advance and schedule them so that way you can keep your life organized. So that was one good thing that they taught that related to financial planning, because that does connect to investing. And okay, we're getting close to the drop off. I gotta focus. It's gonna be coming up here on the right. Oh, these are big houses. Where's your number? Okay, I see your number. I see the house. I'll just stop right here. Come on, coffee bean. Come on, coffee bean. All right, that's all done. I was looking for the doorbell and I didn't see any doorbell near the door, so I was all confused, and I realized, oh, because she left that initial door open for me that led to the courtyard. That's where the doorbell was. It was before the courtyard. These fancy houses, they get me all thrown off. So, all right, well, that's done. I got the app still on, and I got essentially about 45 minutes left in my day, and it has been really slow today. And I've had the app on since 8 a.m. So, what is that? I think it's been like 2.5 hours that I've been online and nothing good has come in. Now I'm not 100% sure. Nothing looks familiar now. Oh boy, am I going deeper into the neighborhood? Where's the gate? Oh wait, I think I see the gate. Alright, I think I'm good. I don't remember doing any kind of crazy turns or anything to get there. I just remember it was a long way down here. I was telling you guys my story. So I lost track of time. Yeah, this looks like the gate. I mean, I hope it's not another gate. Let's see when I get out of here. I can't even continue with my story until I make sure I'm not lost. Alright, where am I? This looks correct. Yeah, this looks correct. So, after I graduated from college, I went ahead and I decided to start working, and the very first job I got was at that clothing manufacturing company where they had the riots. And they paid me $8 an hour. Before that, I worked at that amusement park where they paid me $5 an hour. And so you can see I really wasn't making any money at all. Not enough to live on. When I did get the $8 an hour job, I was able to move out of my house, and I lived in a garage, and I paid $300 a month to live in a garage. And I did that for a while. And I did have enough to get by, but of course I had very little money for anything. The one nice thing though is because I had a job, they kept increasing my limit on my credit card, which eventually gave me the ability to purchase a computer, which I got for about $4,000, a Macintosh. And I think at that point I was now working at a printing company, a screen printing company, and they did, and that's how I was able to get some bootleg software to do, to learn how to use Photoshop and Illustrator. And this was at a time when the computer was just starting to be used commercially. So a lot of people didn't know how to use the computer. So I was able to, be one of the few people out there that was hustling to get work at different companies to do freelance work, which I did after I was laid off from the printing company. I went to the garment district in downtown LA, and I found some clothing manufacturers who needed production work done using the computer. And it was nothing like the computers of today. These computers, all you would do with them was scan your hand-drawn stuff into the computer, and you would print it. Or if you were lucky, maybe you could convert it to a vector format. But the programs back then, it did not convert very well to turn it into a vector. So a lot of stuff had to be redrawn using the vector pen tool in like Adobe Illustrator. You'd have to basically redo all your line work so that would work. And pen tablets were super expensive. You couldn't even afford one of those, and they were super tiny and very expensive. So that most places didn't have that, and of course I didn't have anything like that. And yeah, so that's what that also gave me my first taste of having my own business and doing my own taxes. There was no online software. There was no TurboTax back then. I had to go to the post office and I would get my tax forms and I would have to read the tax form and try to figure out, how to fill out the tax form. I would go step by step and I used my little calculator and I'd be inputting all of my stuff in, and I don't think I knew really what I was doing. Because I think the first time I filed my taxes, I ended up paying like, I think it was like almost $2,000 too much in my taxes, and they sent it back to me. They said, "You have overpaid," and they sent me back all this money. I'm like, "Oh, well, free money, thanks." So, so yeah, and you have to realize that at that age, when you're in your early 20s, you're still basically a kid. I mean, unless you've had a lot of, good parenting and they really taught you how to be independent and do things. A lot of stuff the school just doesn't teach you. It's most of the things you would expect, your parents to teach you, which I didn't really get. So I was just fumbling along through life, just number one, trying to survive, and then number two, just try to figure out, how how am I gonna, obtain the things in life that I want. I want to have a house someday, and a family, and um, all these things that you think about that you see in the TV shows. When you watch TV, you see the mom and the dad, and you see the kids and the house and the car and all that stuff. So you think, well, how does all that work? And you just think in your simple young person mind, you just think it magically just all happens. Like, oh, it's just like a TV show. You just reach a certain age and these things just happen to you. Well, that is not the case, obviously. So oh, I lost my train of thought. So I'm trying to think, when did I? Okay, so I learned how to have my own business now, and I was now in my I must have been probably about 24 at this time, and uh, I think I finally was able, around 25. I was able to get a roommate situation where I was actually had my own room, which not in a garage. So that was the first time I actually stepped up, and I was now working at a t-shirt place that did $8.50, $5 now. I was now working at another t-shirt place that did a lot of Disney merchandise, uh, and they were also just paying $8 an hour, so I wasn't going anywhere financially. And I was able to put on my credit card a used car. I think the car was like I think a car was like 4,500. I think I paid for the car, and I just used the credit card. I was like, oh, here, just take my credit card and I'll just get this car, which that was bad. And it was not more than about a year later that somebody crashed into me and they totaled the car. And at the time, I only had liability insurance, and the other person had no insurance and was not here in the country legally. So they vanished, and I was basically left without a car. I was fortunate that I wasn't injured, because I don't even think at the time I even had health insurance. So it's very fortunate I wasn't injured, but now I had no car, and I had all this debt on my credit card, and I was like, well, now what do I do? Immediately needed another car because I had to go to work to keep paying my bills. So I bought another car on the credit card, and this was I think it was like an old it was like an old Nissan Sentra. It was all beaten up. It had all these dents in it. I think it was from somewhere in the Midwest where there was a hailstorm, and it got all these dents in it. It was completely, it was severely damaged. And they gave it to me for a good deal, and yeah, and I drove that car for the longest time. And yeah, and I just kept sinking myself further into debt, so it was a real mess. Got the next offer to go to Lunchbox from UberEats, $11 and change for 4-point-something miles. There was another offer that came in for $16, but it was 2 deliveries. I've been trying to avoid doing 2 deliveries on UberEats because they never show you what the other delivery is when it comes up. It only shows you the first pickup, not the second. And I don't like that, so I always skip it unless it's a good amount of money. I just skip it. The time is 11:36. This is probably gonna be my last one for the day, so just 2 deliveries today. I'm out of time. There was just nothing good that came in this morning. Wasted at least 2 hours of the morning just watching YouTube videos and rejecting offers. Man, that sun is so bright. You would think since I have dark colored eyes, the sunlight wouldn't bother me, but it sure bothers me. My eyes immediately start watering, and I gotta throw on my shades. So let's see, what was I telling you guys? I told you, I left off with that red Nissan that I owned and how I was going deeper into debt, and I didn't know what I was going to do. It was turning into a real disaster, and this is the part of life that most of you can probably relate to when you're young. You go deep into debt, and then you start to wonder, how am I ever going to climb out of this hole that I'm digging myself into? Not because I'm like spending lavishly on myself, but because these immediate needs come up that you just have to, you have to deal with. And I suppose looking back, I could have, taken the bus or something, but for how long, I don't know. How long would it have taken me to save up for another car? I don't know. And so credit cards make it so easy to just magically wipe away any problem is to use a credit card, because it just immediately makes it okay, whatever situation you're in, and now suddenly you got this debt that's now floating over you, but the problem now has been resolved, whatever it is. And after that happened, I left that company where I was doing Disney merchandise. I left that company. There was a lot of toxic stuff going on there, so I left that place. And I was like, well, what do I do now? And I ended up picking like I ended up doing like just random freelance work. So just popping around doing random freelance work. And that sort of eventually led me to these things called, are they still around? They're called temp agencies. I don't know if they're still around or not with the internet nowadays, and there's all these gig apps. But I ended up doing, working for temp agencies. Let me park here. In fact, let me pull all the way far forward. Alright, let me go get this food. Where did I park? Here it is. We are going to be going to a business 10 minutes from here. 3.2 miles. It's gonna be a leave at the door. Silver Tesla parked outside. All right. Let's just make up our own rules, everybody. Everybody make up their own rules. Oh my goodness. So it was busy inside of Munchbox. I was in there for probably 15 minutes waiting for the order. Alright, let's see. Let me get back to my story. And there was something else that was going on. It was so not all okay. I was going heavily into debt at this point in my life, and at the same time I was making good money because every time I sold a design or I did production work, I was getting about $300, $500 a pop for every project. So I was doing fairly well because the work did not take me long to do. Whether I was designing logos or I was designing logos or t-shirt designs or whatever I was doing, or production work, I was making decent money for that time period. So I was very happy with the flow of money that was coming in. So I was able to knock down my debt and still have spending money. But obviously I really was not saving very much. I think most of the time in my checking account, I never had more than about $300 in my checking account at any particular time. So I was always just keeping my head above water, which was which was not good. And I eventually made my way to a temp agency, and I did a lot of different work at different advertising agencies. And I saw a lot of strange things at these temp agencies that made me realize that's not the kind of work that I wanted to get involved in. I had in the past, I had worked for a company that did computer related stuff, and I was doing their packaging, and that place was extremely dysfunctional, and a lot of jobs in the industry are notorious for being very dysfunctional because they're not top of the food chain places, and the type of work that I did at these places was not high, not considered high priority. It was almost like it was a chop shop type of environment, and so they're hiring these young kids that they know they can underpay to do this, to do work. So you're just you're working for a low wage, really long hours, and but you're getting overtime, so that is good. And they just want stuff done as fast as possible, and you're you're constantly under the threat of being let go because you're easily replaced. And I think at this time is when I was starting to realize that I had a good skill for understanding how to improve processes, like how to speed things up, how to notice where there was problems in whatever systems they were doing, whether it was related to the computer or it was actually just in the process they did for getting things done from concept to completion. There was a lot of time that was being wasted, and I was able to optimize a lot of stuff. So at this particular company, I was able to really promote and go high up in the company, but it was so toxic that I just was like, once I got higher up, I was like, oh, I need to get out of here. This is not for me. So So yeah, so the freelancing I did for a while, and and at this company, that was the first place where I actually invested in money in a 401k. So that particular company was the first place where I actually was finally invested in something related to the stock market. And I remember always being fearful of not having enough money. So I would, and because I had such a rough start to my career, I decided that, I need to watch every penny and put as much as possible into this 401k, because it brought back memories from when I was a teenager, where my friend said that he was investing in that semiconductor company and Scott Trade and all that. And of course, still did not understand. And so luckily with a 401k, you really don't have to understand. You just tell them what percentage of your check to take, and they manage it. They just put it in um, whatever is like the default standard to that they do. Like, they have their own specialized funds that you invest in, and they have the default ones they put you in are basically safe. They're like a mix of stocks and bonds or whatever. Which of course I didn't know what they were talking about, but I'm like, okay. So I was putting about I think I was putting 20% of my income uh, while I was there, and I think I was there for over 3 years. So I was putting it in for a while, well, at least for a couple of years. And and then after I left that environment is when I went to doing freelancing again, trying to just struggle and survive again and figure out what the heck I'm doing. And now I had accumulated a valuable skill. At this point, now that I had worked for this particular company, I now knew how to articulate myself better. I knew how to understand business processes, all that good stuff, all the stuff that makes you more valuable as an employee. So, it was a mixed blessing that I worked at this particular place, because it was, at one sense, it was toxic, and the other sense, it was giving me something very valuable beyond just, the financial gain. They were also honing my skills, so that was really good. And so I did the temp agency thing for a while, and it inevitably led me to a big Fortune 500 company where I was doing corporate design, and and then from at that point, because it was such a big company and I was being paid so well, I was able to put lots of my paycheck into retirement, into my 401k, and oh yeah, I was there for a really long time, a really long time. And there was the first company I was actually at where they were very professional, and so that was the first company where I actually learned how people are actually supposed to behave, like how a business is actually supposed to be done, and not be like a soap opera. I mean, of course there were elements there that were soap opera-ish, but not as severe as anywhere else I had been before. And at that point, I had become very aware that if I was going to be in any environments that I thought were toxic, I was immediately going to just say goodbye to that environment, because it was not good for my health, mental well-being. And oh wait, we're almost here at the drop-off. Time to focus on the drop-off, everybody. I believe they said leave at the door and something about a Tesla. Is that what they said? Let's see. Okay. Everybody has a Tesla. Who doesn't have a Tesla? Oh, I see the suite number. Alright, we're here. Let's drop this off. Says leave at door. Suite. Okay, I see the suite number. Come on, it's gonna leave you at the Dover. That was easy. And that's the last one. We're done. Take a head back. What the fastest way out of here is. I don't see any openings over there. I'll go this way. I made sure I included in the picture, I included a picture of the food as well as the suite number so they would know exactly where it was at and could confirm that, yeah, it was at the right suite number. So that is that. And it's now 12:06, and so I'm done. I can't do anymore. My scheduled shift is over, and I got to get back to my life and having fun. Since this job is all about just an activity between 8 and 12 is sort of what my general goal is for doing this job and just having fun with it. And so, where did I leave off at? I was telling you guys about how I had finally arrived at a company where it was professional, they were paying me good money, and I was now investing in my retirement. So everything was real good there. And I was there for a very long time. And at this point, I was now in my 30s. Everything was excellent, and now came the point where I was trying to figure out, okay, I've managed to now be successful. I've now gotten my credit. This is the point now where I've gotten the credit card under control. I don't have a huge amount of debt. I still don't have a lot of money in the bank account. It's still the same problem. It's the issue of like the money comes in and the money goes out because the discipline is not there. You're just having a good time with the money. Every time you get a check, it's like, oh, it's the weekend, let's go have fun. And you spend all your money. And really, since at that particular point I was renting my own apartment, so all you were really concerned with is making sure you had your rent money and your money for your utilities, and everything else was just gravy. You're just ready to go have a good time. And then at this particular point in life was when I realized I needed to start investing in real estate because that's what everybody was talking about. You know, you start to see, okay, well, everybody else is starting to get houses. You know, and I'm like, well, I want a house. You know, but I was like, I don't think I can afford to have a house. You know, what should I do? So I was looking into like condominiums. Like maybe what I'll do is I'll get a condominium. And so condominiums at that time, where I was living at the time, which was in Culver City, which is a very expensive area. So a condominium was well in the mid 200s, and this was like in the early 2000s. This was like 2000, like yeah, about the year 2000, I think it was. So very expensive. And so I was like, well, shoot, I can't afford to do that. I didn't have really any money saved, and I'm like, do they do zero down? And I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't understand anything about points, interest rates, and terms of mortgages. I didn't know about you know what you would need to even qualify for a mortgage. I knew apps. The internet although the internet was there, it was basically America Online internet, which is really just a chat. It's really just a place to chat with people. It's not really much in terms of like the internet is now, where you could just type something in and it would provide you with all this information. It's not. It was just not like that. It was really the type of situation where you really didn't know, and you didn't, unless you went to the library and did research, you would not know, have the knowledge about these things. And of course, my family didn't know anything um, about mortgages or anything like that. Or if they did, I don't think I ever asked them, so I didn't know exactly what to do. But there was just one day I just ended up going to this more poor part of town, and I saw they were building houses. I just asked the lady running the place. I said, "Oh, are these houses, are they going to be for sale?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "They'll be ready around Christmas time. Are you interested?" I said, "Yeah." And so I started looking at the houses. And oh, these are these, and she was showing me like she's like, "Oh, well, the model homes aren't ready yet or anything," and I was like, "Oh, well, how much do you think they'd be?" And I said, "Well," she's like, "Well, this particular one, it was almost like a car dealership. It was like almost being at a car dealership." She was like telling me, "For 230,000, this house can be yours." And I'm like, I'm like, "How much would I have to put down?" Because I didn't really have any money. And then they, they had a, they had like a lender there, and so they they did the calculations, and it turned out that I would have to come up with $10,000 to get this house. And I was like, "Uh-oh, I don't have no $10,000. What am I gonna do?" And I was like, "Well, uh, let me look at." I recalled at that moment that I had the retirement account from when I worked at that first company, the one with the toxic environment. That's when I had remembered, oh, I have that retirement account. I wonder how much it's worth. And you couldn't even look it up online to find out how much you had. You had to just call a phone number. So I called up a phone number, and I said, "Oh, my account number is this. I'm so and so." And I go, "I just want to know what the balance is on this account because I want to buy a house." And they said, "Oh, the balance is," and they told me, and it was just enough money to do the down payment. It was like over 10 grand. And I thought, wow, I go, this thing is this thing is going to come. And I'm not using it for my retirement, but now I'm going to be able to get a house. So I told them, well, I want to withdraw the money, and I don't remember if I got a penalty on it. I don't remember. It was too long ago. I mean, I assume there was some type of penalty for early withdrawal, but long story short, that was my ticket into real estate and getting my first house. So, and that's it. That's it for today. I'm getting close back to home. Thank you guys so much for watching the video once again. I'll continue the story on the next video. Take care. Bye for now.